We're joined by Mr. Mahmud Othman, who is a public affairs analyst and just back from the national conference. Thank you for coming on this morning.
You're welcome. Good morning, viewers.
Oh, by the way, haven't gotten your thoughts on that conference. I mean, everybody were pleasantly surprised how it eventually ended. What was has there been any further, you should call your colleagues who spoke in terms of what do we expect from implementation, and what's your thoughts on how it ended, by the way?
Well, I am not surprised at all it ended the way it did, because we are talking of 494 matured people who are a big conglomeration of who is who in Nigeria. And when the stakes are down, then definitely patriotism comes into play. We have to subdue our emotions, we have to subdue our personal interests, and work for the interests of the country. And I think that's what eventually came to fore. At the beginning, it was very tough. Ordinary adoption of procedure took us almost 2 weeks. Percentages, when Mr. President inaugurated the conference, he talked of all the resolutions should be either by consensus or 75%. Now, quite a number of delegates think that 75% was a tall order. If elections are being won on simple majority, or even controversial things like two-thirds, then how come 75%? So that one went backward and forth, and so on and so on. Eventually, a committee of 50 wise guys came with a solution. No, no, I'm not. So, well, in a combination where you have retired inspector generals of police, former SSS directors, former military intelligence people, NIA groups, more than 65 lawyers, more than 10 senior advocates among them, Supreme Court justice, Court of Appeal president, and so on and so on. You have this combination, and then you have professionals in all aspects of our life. And actually, we came under 98 umbrellas, from Manufacturers Association to youth, to people with disability, to diaspora people, market women. I call them supermarket women because, you know, the kind of English they speak is Oxford kind of accent, so you cannot expect, that can only be a supermarket woman. But Auntie Felicia Sani is there listening. So you have that combination, that big umbrella. And at the end of the day, the interests of Nigeria should take priority, and I think that's what happened.
You were satisfied with the outcome of the conference, were you?
Well, as a Democrat, I accept majority decision. There are some gray areas which you just have to subdue your emotion to allow peace to reign.
At that conference, the conference was also concerned about security, just like every Nigerian is, and then even more so now, where we see some other developments. We just spoke to Major General Chris to look at it. What are your observations about this, and how the way we're handling it?
Well, as far as the national conference is concerned, there was a committee on security, and former Inspector General of Police Muhammad Gambo was the chairman, former director of NSO, which now is called SSS, Mr. Hospol, was his deputy. And they did a wonderful job. They came with very serious recommendations, ex-practitioners, and also the committee was populated by people who know what security is all about. So they came with a very comprehensive security recommendation. When implementation comes, I hope it will see the light of day. But this country is in a very critical situation, and I don't think we ever found ourselves in this kind of embarrassing position. For a country like Nigeria to wait until something like what is happening now is taking place, I don't think it's a healthy development. And I was wise enough when the civil war was going on. There was nothing like, there was no, this feeling we have today. We never had it before. So I think the authorities responsible should do something more they should talk less and act more. I think that's the essence.
What do you think, has gotten us to this point? Some people are saying comparisons between what is going on here and what is going on in Iraq. Can you draw any line whatsoever between the two of them?
I don't think so. What is happening in Iraq has nothing to do with what is happening here. What is happening in Iraq is an outcome of the imperialist conspiracy against Assad of Syria. Turkey offered part of his territory for Western busybodies to move in, were trained, were armed in order to go and overthrow Syria. And all manner of Western adventurists find their way there, were armed by the West, by Britain, by France, by the United States, by Canada, by all of them. So they are shedding crocodile tears now. Now those people, of course, after doing whatever they did, they lost hope that they are going to overthrow Assad. And therefore they have an adventure of their own. Now, the way they are going about it, if you are not careful, they are heading for Saudi Arabia. But this Saudi Arabia also was a culprit. Saudi Arabia found itself with Israel on the same side, just because of Assad. And what they don't understand, the imperialists don't understand, is that the more they try, the more they create more problems. They created that problem in Afghanistan. Back in 1979, when Babra Kamal and other people overthrew King Dawood, and they allied themselves to Russia. And the imperialists of the West cannot just stomach that one. But they cannot face Russia, USSR at that time. And they have to go through Islamic countries and preach, how do you allow atheist Russians to take over an Islamic country, and so on. So volunteers, all these Bin Laden and so on, found their way there. They were trained under Zia-ul Haq in Pakistan. And they crossed over as Mujahideen, the so-called fighters or liberators. At the end of the day, Russia realized they had terrible casualty they cannot stomach. So they crossed over back to the USSR, which is now this contiguous states with Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and so on. So they moved to the north and so on. Then these people who are financed and trained by the West, some of them never handled a weapon. Now decide that they were cheated because they are not regular soldiers. They cannot go back to their own country. There's no pension. There's no gratuity. So they say, okay, we have learned. Now, Taliban, we are students. So Taliban came up. So somebody would think that. So back in 1991, the same Americans under Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher would not allow Islamic Salvation Front in Algeria to take over power after winning an election. Those who felt shortchanged moved to the Algerian mountains to the south and waged war on the government. For the same West to turn around and say Al-Qaeda al-Maghrib, that's the Al-Qaeda of the West. And whatever it was, they demonize them, and then these people are just liberation fighters, just like the election was annulled in Nigeria, but they did it in Algeria first, before they came to Nigeria, a year after. And that's how they created that tension in Algeria, and what you call Al-Qaeda now in North Africa. Then here is a local problem. Local problem from a small enclave where Muhammad Yusuf used to have his house and a little mosque. All his disciples go there to pray and so on and so on. Of course, we are talking of back in 2009. So that problem could have been contained there and then. A combination of security committee of Borno State government at the time, after holding their meeting, decided to demolish the structure of the enclave. What they didn't do, like they didn't do Eduardo Metazine in 1980, why don't you surround the place? Pick everybody there, screen them. Who are you? What is your name? Where do you come from? And so on. What are you doing? Even if you release the person, at least he knows somebody has his identity. No, they just want to demolish this place. The Boko Haram or Muhammad Yusuf supporters spread all over. Now it has become a kind of mustard seed. So, how do you allow one little address? Just pick any Lagos street, say number 17 something. You start there, you allow that problem to engulf the entire Lagos state, the entire Oyo, Ogun, and something, because that's equivalent to what is happening in Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, and so on. Then You have splinter groups in Abuja, in Kaduna, in Kano, and so on and so on and so on, doing their own thing. And we are a government. These people are simple idiots, small people. Where do they get their arms? How do they cross your border?
Which is the question.